Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video, I've got a ton of great emulation news for you. We're talking about the PS4, Nintendo Switch, Nintendo DS, Lemuroid, Fightcade, and the Ayn Loki. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off here talking about PS4 emulation on PC with a brand new PS4 emulator. And no, this is not KYTY or Kitty, which we talked about the other week. This is a completely brand new one called FPPS4. Now, FPPS4 is 100% free, and it's also open source. I'll leave a link to the GitHub in the description below. Feel free to check it out. They state FPPS4, it's a PS4 compatibility layer on Free Pascal. This project is at the beginning and started for fun. So if by chance you want to see FPPS4 in action, Brutal Sam does have a video posted. There are two different games being showcased, Sonic Mania and We Are Doomed. I'll leave a link to the video in the description below. And truth be told here, I am extremely excited to see another PS4 emulator up and running. I'm going to be paying attention to this one. Next up, we're talking about Nintendo DS emulation on a bunch of different platforms with NooDS. Yes, that's how you say this emulator's name. NooDS is available for Android, Linux, Mac, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation Vita, and Windows. And NooDS just got a brand new update as of yesterday. Now, NooDS is still pretty early on in development. It's 100% free, it's open source, it's hard to say its name without grinning, and it's available on GitHub. I'll leave a link to the GitHub in the description below. Feel free to check it out. In terms of BIOS, it borrows the BIOS from Drastic. Next up here, we're talking about Lemuroid, or as I like to call it, RetroArch Lite, or the easy mode version of RetroArch. Lemuroid just got a brand new update. The latest version of Lemuroid should already be on the Google Play Store. It's version 1.13.3. In this version, we've got updated translations and something that might be pretty big here. They've added in an HD filter to efficiently upscale games. If you've tried out RetroArch and maybe you don't like the look and feel of it, maybe it's a little bit too cumbersome, maybe it's a little bit intimidating, well, Lemuroid is simple, it's straightforward, it's easy to use, and I highly recommend it. Check it out if you haven't already. Moving on, and we're talking about arcade gaming and a bunch of other systems with Fightcade. If you're not familiar with Fightcade, at a high level, it's a great platform to play a bunch of retro games online with your friends or against random people. I have done a few tutorials on this. I will leave one in the description below. It uses great netcode. It's got a great games library. You do have to provide your own games, but Fightcade is also free. While Fightcade is geared towards fighting games, hence the name Fightcade, you can play other games on this platform. Anyways, Fightcade just got a brand new update to version 2.1.29. In this, it introduces SOCD cleaning, so if you hit left and right at the same time or up and down at the same time, it does a uniform method to handle everything. On top of that, they've also added in support for Naomi 2 on Flycast Dojo, so you can play Virtua Fighter 4 on it. Next up here, we're talking about the newly announced Ayn Loki, and it appears that the Steam Deck might have their hands full with this one. We mentioned the Ayn Loki in a previous video, and the specs here are very impressive, and so is the price. Ayn has dropped information on 5 different versions of the Loki, possibly even 6, which is a heck of a lot. The Loki Mini here, which is the cheapest option, sitting at $300 USD, features an Intel CPU. But there was also some confusing information on the site that possibly hinted at an AMD CPU in there. So those are possibly 2 different versions of the Loki Mini, and then we've got 3 different versions of the standard Loki that have been confirmed. One has 64 gigs of storage, one has 256 gigs, and the other one has 512 gigs, priced at $500, $600, and $700. And they all feature the AMD 6600U. And we've saved the best for last here, the Loki Max. It's priced at $800. It features the AMD 6800U, which is incredibly impressive, with 512 gigs of onboard storage. Unfortunately, at this point in time, it looks like every single version has completely sold out of their pre-orders. I will say the specs of the Loki are great on paper. It's going to have a better form factor than the Steam Deck, but there are a couple of things to consider whether or not it's actually going to beat the Steam Deck. And these things are going to be hard to determine right now. One will be software support, driver support, and the overall experience with the Loki. Will it be as supported as the Steam Deck? And the second thing here, what will the controls be like? There were some people who weren't overly happy with the Odin, especially with the joysticks. If those same joysticks are carried onto the Loki, that might be a drawback. But either way, the Loki is something worth paying attention to, and if you live in an area where you can't get a Steam Deck, then the Loki is definitely something to consider. Last up here, I've got a really quick update about Skyline, the Nintendo Switch emulator on Android. Yes, they've made even more improvements. This is a shot of Super Mario Odyssey from a test build of Skyline, and it is rendering a heck of a lot better. Yes, there are some areas that aren't necessarily perfect, or far from perfect, but at the same time, the overall picture here is amazing. In terms of progress, Skyline is sitting at 61 games listed as playable and a whopping 104 games listed as getting in-game. The amount of progress the team is making here is nothing short of amazing. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. Let me know your thoughts on anything we talked about today in the comments below, and we did talk about quite a bit. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos, don't tempt fate, save your state.